I, over time, seen that there really wasn't a lot of places to get help in this area. I decided to go back to school, and because I wanted to do something to make a difference in this community where I was raising my children. I have 3 boys. Brendan is over here. He works for me. He has 6 years clean as well. We had our struggle while we were here. I have a 20-year-old, Dan, and I have a 10-year-old, Matt. So I decided to go back to school. I went back to school and I got my master's degree in social work. And I started my journey in this field down in Bloomington because there was no place here, right? I couldn't even get an internship here, right, Rachel? Correct. Because there was no place around here. So I worked down in Bloomington doing my internship, and then they hired me on. And I worked in their drug court program, which we now have in LaSalle County. Made my way through some prisons and jail. I ended up over at LaSalle County Jail. And while I was at LaSalle County Jail, that's where this came from. I would work with people that were in custody. And they knew once they left that if they didn't get help, they would just end up back in LaSalle County Jail again. Because most of them were not first timers. They would go to jail, they would get cleaned up in the jail, they would leave the jail, they would go back to the same people, places, and didn't really have support. So they would end up back in jail. And I worked with them to try to get them placed so that they could get the help they needed. All of those places were anywhere from 65 to 100 plus miles from this area. There's nothing, right? There's nothing here. If you guys are from here, you know there is nothing really here. And if they wanted outpatient treatment and they had state insurance, they had one choice: North Central. And not that there's anything wrong with North Central, but if I went to North Central multiple times, I'm going to blame the North Central, whether it's North Central or not. I'm going to say North Central doesn't work for me, so I'm not going to go back there. And there was no other option. So while I was working at the jail, I learned this really cool therapy, accelerated resolution therapy, and I was like, well, I'm just going to open this little part-time office, you know, a day and a half a week, see people, do accelerated resolution therapy with them, and if they have state insurance, I'll take state insurance. I take state insurance, I take commercial insurance, I take cash, everybody takes cash. So that day and a half a week, it was Fridays and half a day Saturday, and I worked 40 hours at the jail, turned into, I now have Rachel, I have Haley, Brendan works, Janet, who's not here today, works for me full time. So that day and a half turned into all of that. So I decided I needed to create a facility instead of just talking about, hey, we really should have something in the Illinois Valley. People need something in the Illinois Valley. So I started looking at property. I had started building an addition to my house that's probably never going to get done. I went to the bank and refinanced my house so that I could finish this addition, and I took all that money and I invested it into the business, and I bought a building that most people around here know as Dr. Farley or Dr. Cote's old office. So that's where the building is. I applied for a grant, no idea if I was going to get it. Well, we actually applied for 2 grants. For sure wasn't going to get 2, but not really confident I would get even 1. And on the call, they actually encouraged us to apply for 2 and looked at all the other properties available in the Illinois Valley, and they said, what about this property? What about this property? And I said, well, it won't work because I had looked at probably every commercial property in the Illinois Valley that was for sale at the time. I had already put a bid in on this building long before I even knew this grant existed, because somehow it's just going to work out. So the hospital accepted my offer eventually after a long time of waiting, and right around the same time, the grant people called and said, well, right before we closed, actually, they called and said, we're not going to give you one grant, we're going to give you both grants because we want you to have beds for both men and women. So, in about 2 weeks, we're going to break ground. The grant money is about less than half of what we need to build this facility. So, I've been working with the bank. You people are all here. I've been doing some little bits of fundraising, but not a whole lot. GAF, who is building a plant in Peru, is donating the roof. James Hardy is donating the siding. That helps, but still we have about half the money that we need, other than what I'm borrowing from the bank, which is actually completely terrifying. I'm not going to lie. It's a lot of money. And I believe in what we're doing. It's needed. I was at a funeral yesterday for a friend of mine. Their daughter overdosed and died. That happens all too often. The number of completed suicides in this community is skyrocketing. Overdose deaths are not going away, and people don't have a place to go. You know, they just don't. Where do I go? I go to Chicago, I go to Champaign, I go to Peoria, Joliet, Rockford, but then they come back here, right? They come back here because this is where they live, this is where their family is. They come back here, and then they go, oh, now what? Now I'm back here. I spent 28 days, 20 days, whatever it is in treatment, I'm not fixed. Because we didn't get to be where we were overnight. It didn't take us 20 days to become addicted and destroy our lives. It took a lot longer than that. So we expect them to go away to treatment, come back fixed. 28 days, you're fixed. Took you your whole life to get here. So our facility, what it will do is we'll have a behavioral health clinic where we'll offer outpatient counseling, outpatient, intensive outpatient, and then we'll have 12 male beds and 12 female beds. Those beds will be for people coming back from treatment, right? They can live there anywhere from 3 to 6 months, or longer if they still are struggling a little bit to find a place. Hopefully, my goal is once we got people at 3 to 6 months living there, I've been able to acquire some other property so that they can transition to sober living, which is a house with other people that are trying to stay sober. At our facility, they'll receive counseling, they'll go to group counseling, we'll have recovery coaches, we'll have people there to help support them 24/7 while they're there. They'll be expected to get a job, work, pay taxes, be responsible, pay rent. We'll teach them the life skills that maybe they didn't have.